All right. We had a smooth intro this time. Getting better, y'all. We're getting better. Coffee grind live. You know how we do it. Welcome, welcome. We got some people that start to show up, to show in. So welcome to the show. We've got a guest tonight. Put that down. Boom. All right. Turn my radio voice off. Anyway, we got a guest tonight. If y'all seen the flyer, y'all already know who it is. But let me go ahead and bring her out and introduce. So in this episode, we are joined by the truly marketing genius, the remarkable guest, Miss Ella Parlor, a visionary. She is the founding partner of EP Consulting, best-selling author, acclaimed podcaster, eloquent speaker. She is just everything marketing, podcasting, speaking, just a true power woman in the business world. So let's go ahead and bring it to the stage, Miss Ella Parker. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. I kind of butchered the intro, but that's all right.
Well,
I butchered it up. I didn't give you
I'm
enough hype.
glad. There's no way to live up to that.
I
That
didn't
was
give you enough
that was
hype.
too much hype. I would prefer to hype people up. Why don't we
Hey,
introduce you?
and I know how that feels. That's why I like being on this side of it. That's why I like being on this side.
I love it. Well,
So,
thank you.
thank you for joining on the show. I appreciate it. And
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to do this. I'm excited to talk to you.
absolutely. I mean, we obviously well, some people may or may not know, but prior life we worked together, and so this is one of those times that we're not on the teams with the do that music. I was going to have a snippet of that music playing, but I was like, no, that brings back too many memories of just random calls from people. So I was like, yeah, no, son, do that.
I think I might be one of the few people in the world that actually loves Microsoft Teams.
That
Like
likes
I
music.
love it. I love it. They flagged me a few times because I use it so much, and whenever they have a new feature, they have flagged me for like, "Do you want to pilot this?" And I'm like, "Yes, I want to try it all." I
Give it.
love Microsoft Teams, but I love Microsoft Office, like the entire suite.
Yeah.
So that's probably I don't know what that means, except that I really lean into it, but I also understand the limitations, and I would understand why some people shy away.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I like it when it works. I'll put it like that. When everything's working good and people can log in and everybody can log in, I like it. Other than that, I'm like, well, here's what it is. All right. So we're gonna I'm gonna just make sure that we are live on the Instagram. It looks like we are. Yep. Let's make sure. Actually, let me just get a whole nother tab pulled up here. But so while we're doing that, let's start with. So you got a new thing going. Do you want? I mean, we're gonna go through the gambit of things. So we're gonna go through. Oh, it didn't go live. Hold on. Let me hit go live on Instagram. There we go. Now we're live on Instagram. Jeez, I look like an amateur here. So Instagram missed the whole intro, but that's cool. So we got amateur hour over here with Seaside Inc. Anyway, so we want to talk about the new business venture. We want to talk about. We're gonna talk about both during this.
We are.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the book is we could talk the business. That's probably shorter than the book. I think the book is where people deviate and they have a myriad of questions. The
Okay.
business, I think so. When I started EP Consulting, I officially started it and established the LLC last November, last fall. And that was expedited because of the book. But I started consulting in 2015. For several brands. So I've never, and I talk a little bit about this in my book, because the question that I've gotten over and over again is, how did you build this career? How did you do it? What did you do? And I'm thinking, how do I summarize 15 years into a 30-minute conversation. It doesn't feel sufficient. And I think one of the frustrating things when you look at certain business leaders, athletes, anybody who's hit certain accolades that you're hoping to achieve, it's always overbroad. Their description of how they got there is super overbroad. And so I wanted to take the time, sit down, write out in as much detail as I could without being too boring,
Mm-hmm.
how I was able to brick by brick by brick build where I am today. And it's been an interesting ego trip, not in the way that you would think. Like
Okay.
it's so different working for yourself, and not being able to hide behind a company email, a company name, a brand name.
Right.
So,
You are it.
yeah, so
Yeah.
that's been different, but it the first consulting role I had, actually the first 2 roles that I had where I was consulting for beverage brands, both which got sold after my working on their trade marketing efforts,
Oh,
were, and one of them is a really big brand that got bought out by Coca-Cola. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I just did. And then the other brand got bought out, and I talk a little bit about those experiences without naming brand names just
right.
because of certain paperwork, but both of those situations, it was former employees. So in one situation, it was a former CFO who knew nothing, very little about marketing and needed support building a brand because he made the decision to start his own beverage brand with another joint venture. And he and I worked in the same office when I first started off as virtually an intern. Like I was technically a manager and I was managing employees, but a lot of my role in the office was intern work. And
Gotcha.
so building a rapport there when he needed someone for marketing, I think he knew that I was probably within his price range
Gotcha.
and reached out.
Yeah.
Not even fully sure of my capabilities or lack thereof. And that was really flattering. And I think that that ultimately is a testament to you are where you need to be all the time.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
really, luck is just where your preparation meets an opportunity. If you're
Hmm.
going to leave a lasting impression, make it positive, so that way when people are in need, you're able to bridge those gaps for them. And then the second, so that was a smaller brand, that ended up selling for about 10 million. In retrospect, probably would have been valuated at closer to 20 million, but
Oh,
we
wow.
were all new to the game.
Right.
And then the other brand that I worked for, the one that got bought out by a big conglomerate, that was a former manager that I worked with, and she was taking over some deals, and what they were really doing was preparing this brand to then
Hmm.
get purchased by a bigger company. And I didn't realize that. So this was before the investors came in. The marketing was really off. It was very confusing, inconsistent branding, terrible distribution, terrible route to market. And so while the product itself was good, the marketing around it, from the packaging to the distribution channels, were not effective. And so I was able to help with that, not then finding out that because I didn't get equity in the situation, they get this really big name, everybody knows his name, investor, and
Right.
then a really big conglomerate came and bought it out. And so just being a part of that brand, if I go to a gas station or a grocery store, I see it on the shelf,
Oh, no.
having a little bit of piece of that legacy, it feels good to me. I have
Right.
no bitterness. I have no
Right.
bitterness about that, but that's
Good.
kind of how I got started with the consulting on the side.
Gotcha. And so to your point, so you've been doing that for a while, and then so last year, at the end of the year, you're like, hey, let's go ahead and make it official. Let's go ahead and do that.
Yeah, and that's been an interesting, it's an interesting, we'll say, decision. I don't know that it's always a decision.
Yeah.
Sometimes what I've realized is that it's very much high risk, high reward. When you're
Hmm.
working as a 1099 consultant, there are a lot of benefits that are missing, and then there are also benefits that come to fruition. So a big one for that is equity. When you're able to garner some type of equity within the company and you know that this brand succeeding, so brand marketing is my strength, this brand success is what's going to serve me down the line.
Hmm. Gotcha. Gotcha. And so cool. You got that. Hold on real quick. I completely moved you out of there, so that's my fault.
Oh, that's
Probably
okay. We love your
probably
face.
no. Threw
Yeah.
everything off. I was trying But cool. So you decided, or you were kind of guided into, starting your, or actually making everything official with the consulting. So with the book, are you saying that the book kind of led you into that? So one of the things I like to do on Coffee Grind is we like to talk about like the grind of like getting through that and going into moving into your purpose. And so like, because I when we first kind of met with the last gig, you were still in the middle of writing it and you're pushing towards it. You can talk a little bit about that, kind of that process, and how good or
Yeah,
frustrating
writing.
that gets, or what have you.
So one of the main questions I've gotten since writing the book is, how do you write a book?
Hmm.
And I think that's almost as it's like, how do you start a family, right? I mean,
Right.
it's like, okay, well, there are a lot of pieces to the puzzle beyond just the writing part, but I think most people focus on the writing. I've always been a writer. Both of my parents are writers in their own right. My dad has been published several times through, educational books. My mother is a beautiful creative writer, and I started journaling because I had a bunch of emotional issues around 1997. So my parents gave me a diary, and they were just like, let it out here.
Right.
Don't let
Right.
it out in the schoolyard. Don't let it out on your brother. Let it out here. And so I learned to just write down my feelings, write down my observations, write down my experiences. And then going into college, my first year of college, the best advice that someone gave me, who had just, my aunt, who had just graduated law school, the best advice that she gave me was, every single kind word that you get from a professor,
Hmm.
get it in
Right.
writing, get it in an
Okay.
email, put it in a folder in your email box. So since I was 18, since freshman year of college, anytime a professor, a boss, a coworker gave me a kind word about something that I did for them, I put it away in this box. And if they didn't send me an email, if it was a text, I would then follow up with them via email, say, I really appreciate those kind words you said about XYZ project. Because once you
Right.
finish a project, you're ready to move on. You're not thinking
Right.
about it anymore. And so when I made the decision to write a book, I was able to revisit a lot of these wins. And I've had people ask me when they read my book, how do you remember so much in detail? Well, I
Right.
don't have to write every part of the experience, but if I have enough of an outline to be able to recollect what occurred and fill it in, that is less energy for me to actually write, because I'm able to reimagine, re-understand those stories. And so the book quite literally goes from my beginnings, my parents, and then into elementary school, these various jobs, that I had, and then of course ushering into the postgraduate years. And so I think that was a big part where retroactively people are not able to do that. And so what I say here and now is, whatever you're experiencing, when it feels really good or feels really off or really uncomfortable, especially within the context of your work, write it down, journal it, just write down as much as possible about your experiences, because you don't know when you're going to want to draw upon that again. And so from there, I started collecting my thoughts, building out an outline. I knew that I wanted to write a book about the duality of my experiences of building out a career in such a niche space, which is alcohol marketing. I've loved that space. It's very elusive to most people, and I get so many questions. And so, kicking off in the first chapter, I talk about the constant questions I get, just trying to answer the
Right.
question, what do you do?
Right. 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 So first of all, I want to step back. So I think that is some phenomenal advice that you got, of course, of writing your wins down and writing down, anything that anybody says that's good to you. I think I'm gonna have to steal that one. So that's one
Please
one that I
do.
would say that everybody, grab that one and run with that. But so really, it's one of the things that I think, kind of Gary Vee talks about, but you've been doing it for a while, but it's kind of documenting as you go. But that was you did it in the written form.
Yes, and nowadays with dictation options, like if you don't know Word document, you could dictate everything, save
Right.
it. Now with, ChatGPT and all these other AI, there's no reason for you not to be documenting. If you don't like writing, if you don't like typing, you can dictate your feelings in 5 minutes a day,
Yep.
10 minutes a week, whatever it is, and just overview your day. I would say the grind came. This is where like people are like, how do you write a book? Okay, you build an outline, you just write it, right? Just write.
Right. Right.
It's the editing that's the grinding part, so a lot of people think that 80% of the book is writing the book. I would say that's about 20%.
Gotcha.
The big hurdle to overcome is these words that you're holding so preciously is working with an editor and a publisher who then take those words and are able to make it make sense for everybody else, because
Right.
whatever you might be thinking might not translate for the audience, and you need that type of audit, someone who's invested in your work but also is going to audit and say that doesn't make sense, it doesn't sound right, you're losing your credibility. And then that's where the ego really comes out. There were about 200 pages cut from my book because we were unable to come to an alignment of how to express what I really wanted to express. And
Right.
ultimately, I decided if I can't say it my way, then I'm not going to say it at all. I'm not going to water down this experience to make it more digestible, or, you know, protect my publisher from legal liability. If I
Right.
can't say it in its full authenticity within the context of changing certain names and circumstances to create an anonymous scenario
Yeah.
for it, then I really don't want to say it at all. A big piece that we cut out of my book, that because of the alcohol marketing, was I wanted to go into the history of alcohol, and this idea that Jesus Christ's first miracle was turning water into wine, and what that means and where that gets misinterpreted in modern day society. But my publisher was like, "You're going real off the wall here, where we don't want to hear that. We don't want to hear about Jesus and the miracle and his death and all these things,
Right.
and the symbolism of his death." They were like, "You went too far." I was like, "All right, I would want to read that, but that's where you learn to just not hold your idea so precious, and really relinquish to the process. Writing a book is really difficult. If it was easy, everyone would do it. There's a reason
Yeah.
why only 2% of the American population are published authors. Like I said, there are a lot of people who have a book sitting on their desktop right now,
Oh, yeah.
but the reason why it hasn't been published is because that hurdle of editing and publishing, and then the self promotion that follows. No one told me about that self promotion part. Nobody. Those make the process. It truly is a grind. It was. I think I'm still recovering a little bit from it, but definitely the most difficult thing I've ever done. Significantly more difficult than obtaining my undergraduate degree.
Oh, I bet. I mean, and I mean, to your point, I mean, you got all this information, and again, I think you said it beautifully, because you're trying to make a cohesive story, throughout, and there's certain things maybe in your head that you're like, okay, I want this to go out, but then once you get to the editor or publisher, they're like, nah, that's not going to flow with this, or nah, we don't think it's going to give you that marketability or what have you. And so, there's some challenges there. But yeah, that self promotion, yeah, I've heard that, or that promoting the book can get challenging, and can get a little bit of tough, because your book, correct me if I'm wrong, came out in November,
Hmm.
if I'm not mistaken. And and then since then, I mean, I remember seeing you on the lives on Instagram, and seeing you posted and everything, and following that journey. I've seen recently you've been doing book signings and stuff like that, and that hasn't been easy. But to your credit, I mean, you've done it and you got yourself out there. But I know that that's as much of a struggle as the writing the book. Any tips or anything you care to kind of share
Yeah,
about that with people
I
that are doing it?
think I understand it a lot more now. I mean, I'm so blessed that I have a really incredible community. I think that the theme, right, this idea of alcohol marketing really resonates with a lot of people. And I kick off the book by saying, whoever you are, you have a relationship with alcohol. So
Yeah.
Lucky for me that my career is in alignment with this very lifestyle sector that I think already has a certain magnetic pull for individuals, even if they know nothing about me. Um, the I'm all about promotion. I love promotions. I love events. I love brand marketing. I love public speaking. I love sales trainings. I love brand education. I like all of that stuff. But what I realized in this process was every time that I was getting out on stage and speaking, or anytime I was in a room speaking, it was never on behalf of Ella Parlor. It was always on
Right.
behalf of my teams, of my executives, of my brands, of my companies. And so I'm really a talking head for these brands. And the moment I had to do the exact same things I've always been doing,
Yeah.
but it's not for a brand where I'm
Right.
hiding behind some brand and I'm really putting myself out there, that's where I've turned down several opportunities and I'm working through that. It's more of a slow burn for me because I'm working through that. I had an opportunity to go to New York City and do this PR stunt at Times Square, and I just couldn't stomach. I couldn't stomach the idea of even thinking about it, let alone entertaining the idea of planning it and executing it. Um, and I've worked on not Wall Street. I've worked on Times Square stunts in the past on behalf of
Right.
brands without thinking twice. And
Right.
so this idea of my face being on the forefront, it is super cringy. One of the things I promised myself last year, and it was in the context really of my dating life, was that going into January 2023, I told myself, look, we're going to cringe and do it anyway. If you're
Right.
interested in someone, you're going to tell them. Don't expect him to just like tell him, hey, I like you. I'm interested in you. I miss you. I want to see you again. Cringe and do it anyway, because
Right.
I've really struggled with that type of vulnerability. And so what started off as a dating strategy for myself ended up translating into the book. And I think something that was surprising to people is you're not supposed to put your face on the cover of a book, like unless you're very, very famous. It's kind of tacky. It's a
Hmm.
really great way to tell that you're novice in the publishing world. Like unless you're Viola Davis, unless you're Prince Harry, you
Right.
really should not be putting your face on your first publication. And that was something that was brought to my attention. And I was like, you don't understand. If this book flops, I need my face on the book so that way my friends will put it on their coffee table and then they will tell their friends or whoever, like, this is my friend Ella, she's single, you should date her, you should marry her. Like I was going to use this book as a
Yeah.
marketing tool for my dating.
I remember hearing you say that on live. And I was like,
That got thwarted because I ended up meeting someone in the writing process, which was a
right.
whole nother thing because he saw the worst version of me in the beginning of our dating. Like I look back on that, I'm like, how did you stick around? Because I was very difficult. I couldn't sleep. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I'd have an edit or I'd remember a part
Mm.
and just that anxiety that came with I gotta fix this, I gotta fix this copywriting, and I have to make sure it comes off this way, and I need to put this chapter first. I was almost manic the 3-4 months preceding the launch. And so it is a lot of, I'm still getting used to that. I'm still getting used to doing podcasts like this. I like you, I'm a podcast host. I like to ask people the questions. And so as much as I love the sound of my own voice, promoting myself has been extremely difficult. The only thing, and this is very non, we'll say Buddhist of me, it's not enlightened of me, really the fuel that's helping me is the feedback that I've gotten from the book. I think that if I had backlash, negative feedback, people who had a problem with the book were ripping it apart, negative reviews, I don't believe that you should do what you do based upon the thoughts or opinions of others, but the fact
Right.
that it has been overwhelmingly positive has been the fuel in my jet to keep me going, saying, no, there is someone who needs this story. There is someone who looks like me, thinks like me, who feels like they can't find advocacy in corporate America. There are people who are struggling with their relationship with alcohol, but they don't know how to talk about it because it's very dichotomized between you're an alcoholic, you're a drunk alcoholic who needs to be sober,
Yeah.
or you're perfectly fine. It's like, well, can we talk about the interim, and can we talk about some of the things that are happening with alcohol in our country without this judgment of you need to get sober now? And so
Right.
because I've been able to instigate certain conversations that aren't being had, the reception has been really positive.
Yeah, and I started the book. I haven't finished it because as my last episode said, things have been crazy. But yeah, I love that you took it from a viewpoint of it's just like it's not just this side or this side. You took it from a viewpoint of we're going to talk about how it's affecting across the board, and I love that that you did that with your book, and I think it speaks volumes to the thought process behind it and how well thought out this was when you're writing the book. So kudos to you on that. I don't have the clapping. I don't want to put the clapping thing in here. I have it, but it just keeps clapping and it doesn't stop. So
No,
because of
thank
my
you.
because of me. But
I was on this journey of toying around with sobriety, because when I moved, I relocated to Dallas about 3 years ago. When I moved here, I found myself drinking more than ever. I was drinking a lot. Now we're coming straight out of a pandemic, all that.
yeah,
And so I was looking for books that talked about drinking and our relationship with alcohol, and everything I found was someone who A, was not in the industry,
yeah,
B, they poo-poo the industry as if we're all evil, fear, the fear mongering that goes into it. And then C, they all come to the conclusion that you're a drunk and you need to be sober, not there's a way to incorporate alcohol in your life. Like, all of them come from this perspective of you're not in the industry. Here's why I was a drunk. Here's why you're a drunk. And here's why you need to be sober like I am. And I'm like, well, that doesn't really relate to me, because I do sobriety cleanses a few times throughout the year. I enjoy alcohol responsibly. I'm in the
hmm
industry. So if I had a serious drinking problem, it would show up pretty quickly because of my
right,
access to events and parties and people and product. And so that doesn't resonate with me. And it'd also be hypocritical for me, after spending years getting people to consume alcoholic products, to just turn around and say, hey, you guys need to stop drinking. My intention was more so to shed light in a perspective that isn't as judgmental, because in order for me to judge anyone for their drinking, I would have to sit with myself and understand and take responsibility for my implication in that as well, as someone who has used business psychology to attract consumers to my brands, right?
right,
So I think that that's where there's a need for it. I think we're seeing huge shifts within the industry. I think a lot of conversations are not being had. The Me Too movement didn't touch us.
yeah,
We are so antiquated in some things that a lot happens in our industry, as you can imagine, with the
hmm
access to the parties and the product and the people, like I said, the celebrities, all that stuff, that the riffraff gets real. And so being able to shed light on that a little bit, not from the context of it's any brand's fault or any company. It's like, oh no, this we see this across the board. So just I wanted to instigate some new dialogue.
yeah,
Um and that it was just a void. If there was a book like mine on the market, I certainly wish I could have read something like that when I was starting my career. And so all I can do to be a part of the positive change is to help create tools so the next people behind me who are coming up can move better and faster, maybe even eclipse me, to just make our world a better place. And I'm perfectly fine with that. You said earlier, I'm going to steal that idea. I love when people steal out my ideas. People have
right,
been stealing my ideas since I was 18. I love it. I love when an executive or a boss steals my idea. And anytime a client will say to me, like, oh, they're stealing my ideas and I don't like that they're taking my ideas, I'm like, your well doesn't run dry. Theirs clearly
exactly,
does, because they need you. And as long as you're feeding them, you're becoming the hand that feeds them, they're going to protect you the way that they would protect themselves. So when someone steals your idea, don't remove the ego.
yeah,
Like, don't look at it as you deserve credit. First of all, they could, and I talk about this in the book, they could be protecting you from the backlash from your really bad idea too, right?
right,
And so by taking on your idea, they're advocating for you whether they know it or not, and they're going to come back for more. And so anytime someone has stolen my idea, or I've had people pull me inside and say, I can't believe he stole your idea like that, because I've had bosses steal my ideas for years. I
Yep.
always go, he's going to come back for more. This well does not run dry. I'm
Right.
innovative, I'm thinking. And if he recognizes that enough to want to take my idea and run with it, he's going to run out. I'm
Yep.
not. So I don't see it more so than like if it blows up and it's not a good idea, it's not my it's not my name on the line.
Right.
So I think people need to let go of this idea, this sentiment of it was my idea and it was stolen. Nobody can take something that's yours. Either you're
Yep.
talented and innovative and forward thinking and you think outside of the box, or you don't.
Right. Right. And I also think personally, my personal belief is that nothing is ours anyway. It's all given to us. It flows through us and flows into us. And if you think that you have an idea that is so precious that you're not going to get another one from God's source of the universe, that's kind of a lack mentality. And so you're gonna stop your own kind of flow. So I agree. I've had people that have been on this show that we've talked about ideas, and they say, oh, can you cut that out? And I'm like, well, I mean, you never know. Somebody might, want to help fund that idea, or it might, help somebody out. And they've had me take it out. I'm not gonna say who or how that happened, but they had me take it out. And I'm like, you could have missed your break by having somebody that could have helped you towards it just by talking about it. But I've always been the type of person that's like, I'll get another one. There'll be another idea coming out, and and also sometimes I think you're just that spark as well. Sometimes you could be that spark to somebody else and help, and they can run with it and have it go.
I
So
will
good
say
point.
where I get too much credit and it's not true is I am not an idea creator.
Okay.
So, like, if someone says we need to create a new product, I don't know where to begin. I'm flat. I am not, that's not me.
Okay.
Now, if you say we need to create a product that blank, so that targets, a particular segment, I can work with that. Or if you say, I have this strawberry lemonade product that I want to, market, I can take that. But if you were to say, hey, Ella, sit down, create a product, that is not my strong suit. And because I'm taking on someone's idea and then executing it in a way to make it effective and
Right.
add strategies that are going to amplify it, there's this misconception of like where it actually was conceptualized and then where I was able to bring it to life. So I can revive an idea, I can breathe
Mm-hmm.
life into an idea, but when it comes to brainstorming sessions, all I can offer is that's not a good idea. I don't come up with good ideas on my own. I think that's a different mindset. My mother, on the other hand, she comes up with all ideas. She's got inventions for days. I'm like, why don't you start patenting? She's got all these ideas and inventions, many of
Yep.
them which went on to be multi-million ideas that someone else executed,
Right.
but she has no desire for execution. She just has the idea and it's like it sprouts out of her head
Yep.
and that's that. And
Yep.
so exactly what you said, like whether it's the ideation, the conceptualization, the execution, the planning, the strategy, all of these pieces, that's what makes us so beautiful that we all can bring our strengths together. And so if someone created a product in their head and then I'm able to take it and make it a multi-million dollar business with, the help of support teams and so forth,
Yep.
we need each other. We
Right.
need each other. It's not I stole their idea, they stole mine. It's
Right.
we
Right.
created something together. And I just wish that we would kind of get over ourselves on that front and just accept
Yeah.
that we need each other for it
Right.
to truly be successful.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, to go back to it, everybody's heard it, but it takes a village, and really for anything to happen, it takes people to make it happen and to go around. So real quick, people that are on, if you're on looking on Instagram, if you want to chat with you want to leave a comment, question, or suggestion with me and Ella, go ahead and pop that over there. But YouTube, you could pop it in, and I could pop the comment on screen. So Instagram, I see you. I'm actually looking at you right over here on this side, but can't pop it on screen. But YouTube, pop on the screen. So I wanted to actually, if we can, kind of take a step back to something we talked about earlier. That's something that you kind of mentioned earlier. And I think it's interesting and it's funny because I think we all do this, but you said it that you've done, events, you've done promoting, you've been the face of other people's brand. But when it comes to becoming, and doing some of the same things you've done for other people for yourself, that's where it's kind of that mental block can pop up sometimes. And I think a lot of people really go through that, and that happens a lot of times with people, especially if we go back to ideas, we come up with an idea, kind of put everything in place, and then it's like, oh, I've got to do this. But if we were doing it for a boss, or we're doing it for somebody else, for another company, it's much easier. And I think it's what you were saying, you being the face and being that person. But do you mind talking a little bit more about that, as far as like what were challenges that I know you're saying that you're working through it, but some of the things maybe that you're working through with that, or how you're working through it, and also what some of the challenges are, or tell me some of your feelings about that. Like,
Yeah, I would say that if you're not doing something you're afraid to do, then you're just not working hard enough.
yeah.
The moment you're doing anything, right? I love using LeBron. I could use LeBron for so many examples, right? But if all he ever did the rest of his life was play NBA, right? That's a failure. Yes, he's had incredible career, blah blah blah. But he's always going to need to evolve. And when he leaves the NBA, whatever his next step is going to be incredibly scary, because he's going to be stepping away from a jersey and an identity and all of these things. And he's going to have to work through that. And as he leans into his next chapter, whatever that might be, it's going to be scary. So I think that no matter how successful you are in a particular space, if you are not challenged, if you are not afraid, then you're not doing something right. Because whether it is parenthood, whether it is grandparenthood, whether it's getting sick, whatever it is, you're going to have to do scary things. And so I would say that that's the first thing, is like challenging yourself to do hard, difficult things, because eventually they become easy. The first time you tried to walk, the very first time you tried to walk, you sucked at it. You were not good. You fell down and it hurt and it was scary, and maybe no one was there to pick you up, and that's awful. But look at you now. And guess what? When you start to learn how to walk, what's the next thing you kind of need to learn how to do? You got to learn how to run. There are other things. Learn how to leap, learn how to jump, learn how to squat, all of these other things. You can't crawl forever. And so a lack of progression is a regression. And so I think if we get into that mindset, when I find myself faced with a challenge, whenever something really scares me and I'm like, "Ooh, that feels uncomfortable, I don't want to do it," I do an inventory check. Is it because I don't want to do it because I'm afraid of what people are going to say? Or is it because I don't want to do it because I feel unsafe? I feel physically unsafe. This person's coming near me. I don't want them talking to me. I'm worried they're going to physically hurt me. Okay, fine. That's physical harm. Remove yourself from the situation. I'm not talking about that type of fear. I'm talking about the psychological fear of the unknown, of I'm afraid of what people will think. If you're not going to die or have physical harm, what could be the reward, and what if? So I dare you, Ella, to do this today. The first book signing I had, I would have left. If I was not held accountable by someone who was like, "No, you committed to being here, you need to stay," I would have just walked out and left, because it was really really hard for me, and one of the hardest things I've ever done. And I'm on the other side of it now that I've done a few and I have more under my belt. I'm like, thank goodness I stayed. Thank goodness I didn't give up on myself. I was very afraid, but I had to remind myself, okay, is anyone going to kill me? What's the worst that will happen? We can handle that. Let's move on. So I think that's the one thing. And then two, back to what I said, get over yourself. We are so egotistical, and what a shame to have an idea, to have a voice, to have advocacy, and then not give that to someone who needs it. There are people who read my book, which was not at all the intention of my book. There are people who've read my book and checked themselves into rehab because they did an inventory check of how they felt. I'm not going to take credit for them and their journey, but what a shame if there wasn't a book on the market that appealed to how they wanted needed to hear a message of maybe how they've been marketed to from brands and so forth. It is a shame, it is selfish to have talents and hide them from people who need them. And we need you. We need your voice. I'm talking to you, C. Scott. We need you. And so when you're dwarfing yourself, when you're amputating your opportunities, you're not just doing a disservice to yourself, you're doing a disservice to your community, you're doing a disservice to the generation coming after you, and you're doing a disservice to those of us who need you. And whoever you are, we need you. And so I think that if you can remember those mantras of, I'm helping people, it is selfish to keep this inside. I am not going to let the fear of what people think, because that's usually the biggest fear. Well, people are going to laugh at me. People are going to judge me. They're going to judge you if you don't. So if they're going to judge you anyway, you might as well go for it. And I think that's where I've landed. And I'm still working through it because it's a lot easier said than done. But my mantra for this year, I always have a motivating mantra for every year. This year is, if it was easy, everyone would do it. The moment it's easy and everyone's doing it, it's not as profitable. That's just how capitalism works. And we live in a
Right.
capitalist society. So the moment everyone's doing it, it's not going to be that profitable. It's not going to move the needle. It's not going to be that magnificent. I use the example of tipping 20%. I've always tipped 20%, and I was considered very generous. Well, now that's become the standard because everybody tips 20%. And so what that means is my tipping 20% is not really considered generous. It's kind of the status quo. And that's a beautiful thing. I love that for servers. They deserve to get paid. But now, this generosity that I always prided myself upon, I no longer have, right? And so, if I want to be generous and I want to level up, I'm going to have to tip 30, 40, 50% to make the needle move if I want to ascribe to being a generous person. And so, I think remembering that once everybody's doing it and it's easy, it's easy, everybody's doing it.
Right. So that's the 2024 mantra. If it's easy, everybody would do it. Um, so let me take a step back. So let me just kind of let's help connect some of these dots. So that's your mantra for 2024. But for 2023, your whole thing was you were basically like going to just embrace the suck and just just make it like no matter how cringy it felt or how bad it felt, to do it, you're just gonna, just you feel the fear,
I
do it anyways.
I texted my ex-boyfriend, and there are several reasons for this, but I texted him and I was just like, out of the blue. And I said to
Mhm.
him, I think you should move in with me. Like, forget, we're gonna skip the dating part because we already know who we are. I think you should just move in with me. And I think the reason why I did that was because I needed his reaction. I needed that confirmation that this was not going to move forward and there was no future for
Right.
him and me. But I was kind of playing around like, oh, like, do I accidentally bump into him? I kind of know where I kind of know his circles. I know where he hangs out. And I was like, none of that's cringy enough. Yeah, I could randomly show up to a spot that I know he'll be at and I could play whatever. And I was like, no, Ella, we said we're going to cringe and do it anyway. And what's your real goal here? You want to get back together with him. You want to explore if marriage is on the table. You know that his living situation just got complicated because of whatever the circumstance was. And so my thought was, I'm just going to cringe and say, why don't you move in with me? Don't move in with your friend. Keep your stuff in the storage unit, just move over here and we'll work it out. And of course he said, get bent. He was like, hell to the no. At first he was like, is this Ella? Did someone take her phone? Because it was so off the wall for me to say.
Right.
But what I needed was that confirmation of, oh yeah, hell no.
Right.
Hell no. Like, we don't need to do that. But if I had played around and I kind of dollied around like, oh, I ran into you, or oh, hey,
Right.
what's up? How are you doing? It could have ended up into some long, drawn out affair that I didn't need to waste my time with. And so I think that, yeah, going ham, it's like high risk, high reward, but cringe and do it anyway. Like, that's how I was able to write the book. That's how I
Right.
was able to tell certain stories that I didn't necessarily want to tell. And so I think that now, again, everything I say, there's to what do we know about the law of attraction and push and pull? For every rule, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Same
Right.
with every rule, right? So
Right.
anytime I say I make a resolute statement like cringe and do it anyway, there are going to be plenty of times where we need to not cringe and not do it. There are going
Right.
to be plenty of times where we shouldn't be putting ourselves out there. There's always a contradiction to any rule of human existence. All of them. There's a contradiction to our existence. And so recognizing that and being really in tune with our purpose, who we are, our spirit, our values helps
Yep.
us determine when those exceptions should come up, but it should never be out of it shouldn't be out of fear ever. It should always be out of a curiosity, out of a desire for growth, out of a desire to serve other people. So like something cringy would be grabbing a girl's butt in the club. Don't cringe and do that anyway. Like we don't need that.
Right.
But you can do an inventory of, okay, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I know he needs me and I think we have a connection and I'm going to be his knight in shining armor and offer him my place. Well,
Right.
okay. Cringe and do it anyway, and then you figure out you don't need to do that.
Well, but also, figure out you don't need to do that. But I think that so to your point, it definitely helps to you got to know yourself and you got to know all the things that you talked about to kind of set that baseline of knowing the spirit in which you're doing it, those things from, and also if it lines up with your with everything that you believe in. But also, you kind of mentioned it there and mentioned it definitely before. One of the things that I think that helps with that North Star, it helps out as well, is just knowing that it's bigger than you. Kind of what you were talking about, that kind of helped you to kind of get through that as well, is and I love what you were saying. It is selfish, when you're not giving your ideas out there, you're not getting, that information out there that you have that somebody else might need, that might help somebody else. So but yeah, I think, and that's the other part that I wanted to, kind of guide into. So the cringe doing anyway, but to also know that it's bigger than you, and that other people need what you have to offer as well sometimes too. So just to kind of that kind of gives you, I guess, the fuel
Mm-hmm.
to go past and do it.
Absolutely. It again, I think we are so I was thinking about it today for different reasons. I'm working with younger people more than ever these days, and I'm struggling because I know I'm a part of the problem,
Okay.
but we are so soft. We are so soft. We want soft and we want easy
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
hard is just too much. And I say I'm a part of the problem because I don't like to do hard things. I
Right.
think I like doing them maybe more than other people because I know the satisfaction on the other side. But we are so afraid and so resistant of hard things when that's really the only way that real change and effective change is made. And we could spend another 2 hours talking about why we're so soft, but I think that that is one of the we are going to see we talk about the economic gap between the middle class kind of shrinking. I
Yep.
actually think we're going to see that in terms of a mindset of like the people who just refuse to do hard things, they
Right.
have they're not going to be able to down the line because it's just too hard. It's too hard. And so the people such as you and I who are like, all right, it's hard, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to have to cringe. I have to get over myself. Those are the people who can be movers and shakers. Something that's been really hard for me right now is working out in the gym. And there are a myriad of reasons for that, a lot of excuses for that. But I've really been struggling to get myself into the gym. It's been harder than ever before in my life, which is again a signal that I probably need to do it. So when something feels really
Right.
hard, I'm like, no, that's what I need to be doing. If I have an apprehension, if it feels hard, I need to do it because usually it's those hard things. Getting a college degree is hard, no matter which way you cut it. Even if it's easy, it's hard, right?
Right.
Childbirth is hard. No matter which way you do it, it's going to be hard. Even the easiest childbirth is
Right.
hard because you still got to pay for this kid and keep him alive and all these things. The most beautiful things. Why did the universe, God, spirit, whatever you may refer to him as, why did he make childbirth so hard? Because
Yeah.
I think that was for us to know of the hard things, good things come.
Right.
Stop expecting, what's easy? Death. Death is easy. That's the easy part. Dying is hard, but the death part, you don't
Yeah.
really do anything. It
Yeah.
happens to you.
Just
So I
relief.
think,
Yep.
so when we think of that, it's like with the hard stuff comes rebirth,
Yep.
and with the easy stuff comes death.
Yep. No, absolutely, and I think you hit the nail on the head right there. I mean, anything that's hard, there's always beautiful things come from the things that are hard. And yeah, the easy stuff is normally that type of stuff that yeah, there's nothing good coming from that if it's too easy. Not to not to take away, because there are things that you can flow into and you get in that flow state and it seems easy, but then you look at you're like, you're working at that for like 5 hours, and then you're like, but it's a difference between the flow. I think there's a difference between the flow state and easy, and also I think for in my opinion, there's a difference between hard and universe, God, or source like trying to stop you. So there's a difference there when you're being redirected for protection and it just being hard because human existence. So, but yeah, I mean, and that's where discernment comes in at, and knowing yourself and all that good kind of stuff. But yeah, I think yeah, we definitely probably will. I mean, we could talk forever, but have a conversation about that down the road of like how it's there's going to be that generation where the people that are willing to do the things that are hard are going to accelerate, and those other folks are just going to just kind of plateau.
Yeah,
You're
I
getting
sometimes get scared. Like I said, I've been working with younger, I don't want to call them children because they're adults, but I've been working with younger adults in this season,
there.
and it's been really interesting because the things that they consider hard, I'm like, that's a blessing.
Yeah.
Why are
Right.
you seeing that as something as that's nothing but a blessing?
Right.
A perfect example is like my skin color. It's a blessing. It's not hard for me. It's not terrible. It's not something to overcome. I'm a blessing. Who I am, my heritage is a blessing. And once you start whining about things you don't have control over, well, yeah, you're going to whine about everything because we
Right.
don't have a lot of control of a lot. So it's more like, okay, what are you going to do to create an opportunity for it, about it, from it? And I see it all as a blessing because it's like, yeah, things are easier when you do hard things too. That's the other dichotomy of it, right? So if you're
Hmm.
lifting 200 pounds in the gym every day, having to lift a 50 pound coffee table is easy for you because you've been doing the hard things. And
Right.
you want to get to a point in life where certain monotony of life is easy because you have faced the friction in the past. That's where I'm at. But again, I haven't been to the gym in like 5 weeks, 5 weeks since the beginning of Lent. So and that was supposed to be my Lenten promise, was to go to the gym every day and lift a little bit of weights. And I went once and then I never went back. So
It happens, but hey,
I'm
you're
not doing
acknowledging
all
it.
the, and now
You're
my body's
acknowledging
soft. See,
it.
don't do hard, get nice and soft. That's what happens. It's real soft and easy over here.
Oh boy, here we go. But you got time. You got time. You start right now. Well, cool. Well, I mean, we're coming up close to an hour. Hey, Instagram, I see some folks jumping in over there and jumping out. Appreciate y'all being here. We got some folks on YouTube. Hi, mom, mommy, hello. My buddy Jay is on there. Like I said, we talk all day. I want to respect your time because we had a certain amount of times, it's planned out for this. Anything else that you want to share, or any last like kind of thoughts or anything that you have that you want to just tell the world?
I want to tell the
Since I
world.
finally know how to get solo going, there you go.
See, Scott, I want to tell the world how great you are and everything that you're doing to create incredible change. You are an agent of change. And I am really excited to see all your future chapters. I'm excited to know you. It's an honor to know you and to be on here to be able to talk at you. I won't even pretend I spoke with you. It's truly an honor, and I want you to come onto my podcast. I want you to write for us, and I want you to share your voice and stop being so selfish. We need
See,
you.
here we go. See, this was your time to shine, and here we go. I'm glad I was all scream because I'm like, all right, yep, not gonna cry on screen. You ain't catch me. I have done that before, but hey, it is what it is. And then here goes all the see. So let me. I wasn't gonna post all these comments, but let me tell you. So then my mom agrees with you 100%. She she's got the stuff on there, so moving right and all that kind of stuff. My buddy Jay, best friend grew up with, he's like, yeah, you have to do the hard stuff, challenge yourself, and then he's agreeing. Tell him again. So thanks. You got everybody, the whole family ganging up on me now. Nah,
I love it. No, we're not ganging up on you. We're
just joking around.
amplifying you because
I know.
you're incredible. You're incredible. And I think if you could, for like 5 minutes, see yourself through our lens, you would be just so elevated. I think you're one of the people who I would need you to err on the side of being egotistical just to have a happy medium because you're so kind, you're so humble, I need to learn from you, and I try to emulate you a little bit on that front.
Well,
Because
well,
I
I
talk too
appreciate that.
much.
No, 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 you don't. I appreciate that. Well, since you're not gonna do it, then boom, here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna pop over here. Wait a minute. Let's get this screen. Hold on, I didn't get the screen going. Y'all gotta forgive me, and because I haven't done this since a year ago. So we're trying to get I'm trying to get this going. All right, we're gonna share the screen and we're gonna show everybody. Boom. We're gonna show everybody the
You got some old pictures of me that you found on the
no,
internet?
no, 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 no. All right, so this is where you can find Ella. This is her
Oh yeah,
website.
ellaparlor.com. Yeah.
Yep. So it'll take you right there. If you want to listen to the podcast that she has, then you're gonna go to ellayabella.com/podcast. That's all in the show notes, by the way. Um, Here's the book, High Tolerance. That's my copy. That's my
Oh,
copy right there. So this is my copy. Along with you can find it right there on Amazon. At you're just going to type in Ella Parlor, and then you're going to go ahead and type in High Tolerance, and it will take you right there. You got to make sure you put her name in there because there is, I think, another High Tolerance somewhere
yeah,
around
he
there
got a
too.
boost in SEO when my book launched. And
Right,
I thought, man, you've been sleepy the last 5 years. And all of a sudden, my book launches. And yeah, so I
right.
think I want to reach out to that author and say, you're welcome. But
Exactly.
yes, I'm one of two books called High Tolerance on the market. Technically, it's High Tolerance, The Intoxicating World of Alcohol Marketing, but
Right,
High Tolerance will work.
right. And then you can get it on paperback, hard copy. Which again, got my hard copy. So y'all make sure that y'all get y'all hard. Make sure you get your hard copy. And then you got the Kindle edition as well. And so right there, 5 stars. It's good stuff. Like I said, I started in on it. I have not finished it, but now that the situation is different, that should be changed.
Thank you so much for
Oh,
the support, and it was
absolutely.
lovely catching up. I'm gonna have you hop on my podcast so I could start digging into what you've been up to and
I'm
hearing
with it.
more about you and where you came from, who grew you. Roxy, we need to know.
There
Miss
goes Miss
Roxy.
Scott right there. There she is. Yeah, yeah. We could talk about all of the craziness that was me growing up. We'll do that. That definitely will work. We'll make that work. Any final thoughts before we shut everything down? Anything you want to tell the people, tell the folks as I put your banner down?
No, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. And I really hope that wherever you are, as you sit here and you're hearing my words, just know that you are loved, you are wanted, you are beautiful, you belong. You're special and important, and there are people you haven't even met yet who are going to be madly in love with you. Come back.
I threw myself out of the screen. Like, for some reason, I hit the refresh button. I don't know how that just happened, but I'm glad that you took over from there. Everybody, Miss, I was gone. I was over here sweating like crazy. I'm like, oh my god! I'm looking over here. I'm like, she's talking about something. I was sweating. I have never done that in the whole time I was just gone out of the screen. My computer said, yeah, you know what? You're done. So, anyways, again, thank you for being here. Want to appreciate you for. We can get it to stop because it'll go and repeat. There we go. So, appreciate it, and yeah, just let me know. I'll be on your podcast. And again, folks, y'all can find Ella across the board. We've got all of the information down here. There's the website, there's the Instagram, the Facebook, TikTok, and LinkedIn. One thing I didn't notice, is there a YouTube channel, or that coming?
No, I don't
coming
want to do
soon, then?
YouTube. Everybody says do YouTube. I'm too much. It's too much. I don't like video. Like, even looking at that photo, you see how airbrushed that photo is? Nobody wants to see the live. There's no filter here for me.
You're
Nobody
on
needs
YouTube
this.
right now, live. So
On your
we're
channel.
gonna need you to rethink that, and we'll see if we can get her into the YouTube, y'all. We're gonna see if we can get her
I
to
need
rethink
filters,
that.
please, Scott. Give me the filters. Maybe we'll talk about it. It's just too much. And I edit. My podcast is all edited. It's just edit, edit, edit. But video, you can't edit as much. People could tell.
And you just let it go. You just let it go. Look, you see, no editing here. I'm doing it all real time, doing a horrible job at it, but we got it going. Anyways, I
Hard stuff.
appreciate you being here. We're gonna start playing the outro music. So y'all make sure y'all check out Ella on all those social medias you see going down at the bottom. And then we are going to be out of here, folks. As always, I know that I love you. We'll catch you next time. Namaste.